on my Facebook as well to see if we are live. Okay. All right. Okay. Hello, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday.
I am here with Beto How, and we are talking about reverse birthdays.
Yes.
So, do you all believe that you can grow younger? I believe that we can grow younger because I think you're as old as you feel, right? Sometimes our body tells us otherwise, but I still believe it. And so Beto he's going to tell you about himself and why he believes what he believes. And I'm going to hand it over to Beto. So tell us, Beto. Tell us about yourself first, though.
Yeah, so my name is Beto. Everybody called me Beto. I also go by Daily Divinity Coach. I post regularly, actually daily, on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, about a paragraph every day, and I also do live shows on Facebook Live and Instagram Live every Sunday morning that I call Sunday Weekly Revival. And then the first Sunday of the month, I actually do my monthly mailbag where people can ask questions, and they pre-submit questions. And I take those pre-submitted questions. I provide thoughtful responses, and that's a lot of fun. So one of the questions that comes up from time to time again is this idea of reverse birthdays. Mm-hmm. And so I actually have a website now, dailydivinitycoach.com, and there's actually a whole page dedicated to just reverse birthdays. And if you're interested in celebrating your next birthday as your first reverse birthday, you can actually fill a form out, and I will either text you or send you a happy first reverse birthday card, either electronically or in the mail. And I've had people do that.
And we'll make it official because I've been lying about my age for years.
Well, I mean, see, I wouldn't call it a lie. Okay. I wouldn't call it a lie if it's a practice, right?
No, I'm just saying, sometimes, the older we get, sometimes I'm I'm 50, or I'll take 10 years off sometimes. It depends, I'm just saying.
Yeah, so what
this is something different.
So have you gotten the vaccine yet, or are you signed up?
No, I want to, but I've not been able to log on and be able to find vaccines in my area.
Oh, okay. So I'm pre-registered. I haven't gotten an appointment yet, but I'm pre-registered.
I registered on 5 sites, and I haven't gotten contacted yet.
Yeah, so my dad said, you should be priority because, you're not a kid anymore. I said, well, yeah, but I'm also healthy. So I don't have, in Massachusetts, my age didn't give me any priority. And he said, you're such and such an age. I said, well, according to the government, I'm such and such an age. But from a theological and a philosophical standpoint, I'm the age, like you said, I'm the age that I feel, or I'm the age that I look like when I look in the mirror.
35.
Exactly.
Me too.
At the age other people reflect back to me.
Yeah.
Right? When I tell people my government age, again, the age the government says I am, mm-hmm. They're usually, say, well, you look whatever, 5, 10 years younger than you are.
Yes. And the only reason why, Beto, I might say that I'm younger is because I hate when they get shocked. Oh my God. You're that old. I hate that response. So now I just tell them, what I feel like.
Yeah. There's the government age and there's Michelle age.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
how long have you been? When did this start and why?
Yeah. So, I mean, the study of it started right around the time the government said I was turning 40. I started studying about, the idea of immortality from a philosophical and a theological perspective. And, and it was really street smarts. It wasn't like I had an immortality coach. I have a law of attraction coach, right? My mother, she's my law of attraction coach. She's my scientific prayer partner and has been since I was 10 years old, or 10 years young, excuse me. But and then I had Cornell West and these other professors teaching me about social justice and liberation theology when I was in college and at Harvard Divinity School. But I didn't have an immortality coach or somebody talking about being ageless and whatnot. That was really just street smarts. That was just me finding, and that's how I do my Sunday weekly revivals. I'm really just building content for this idea from pop culture, from current events, from Netflix, from different things, because there is no book on how to manifest being ageless from a philosophical and a spiritual perspective. It's not out there,
right?
So I got to get my resources wherever I can, and that's what really Sunday Weekly Revival is. My live shows is about building out that content. But yeah, it started 10 years ago. One of the big things that happened 10 years ago was that I met a boxing coach. I've been a boxing fan since I was a kid. It's part, big, part of my culture coming up, my family culture. We're all, Julio Cesar Chavez and Oscar De La Hoya and Muhammad Ali. Like we were always, watching boxing. And I even worked for the media. I was a ringside correspondent for Fight News when I lived in Vegas for 5 years. I'd write in the fights and I'd interview Manny Pacquiao and Eric El Terrible Morales and all these guys that were coming. These boxers, championship boxers coming through Vegas. So that was always part of me. When I came back to Boston, that was over 10 years ago. About 10 years ago, I met a young man by the name of Wased Alfonseca. And Wased is from Africa. He's from West Africa, from Guinea. And he won the Golden Gloves as a welterweight here in New England, which is a big deal. I mean, welterweight division is very competitive. And he won the Golden Gloves. And anyway, he didn't want to go pro, although he could have. He's very talented. But he decided to become a boxing coach. And so I was lucky enough to meet him when he was, pretty early on in his career as a boxing coach. And now he trains like pros, and he still trains amateurs, but he trains some pros and whatnot. And he trains UFC people as well as boxers. But anyhow, when I started working with him, he just started reminding me about how young I am, and how age is just it's not what we think it is in Western culture. It's and he'd say in Africa we don't talk about age the way you do in America, and he said you don't talk about that like in Mexico, do you? I'm like, oh my goodness, you're right. No, why am I talking about age or thinking about age the way American culture or Western culture talks about it? And so that's where like the wheels started going. I started thinking, you know what, this isn't right. Aging's not like, there's something wrong with it, right? There's something wrong with aging from a philosophical and a theological perspective. And so then I started looking at ancient texts and ancient wisdom and anything like talking to fitness coaches and nutrition coaches and reading articles and stuff like that, and even pop culture, like listening to pop music and stuff. And Prince talks about birthdays. Mariah Carey talks about aging and birthdays. And I started piecing things together. I'm like, you know what? No, like the aging thing, that's not from the divine. That's something else. That's not from the divine. The divine is ageless. And if we're created in the image of the divine, our God or the universe, whatever you want to use, then if we really believe that, if we really believe we're created in the image of the divine, then guess what, Michelle? That we're ageless too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you don't really believe that.
Yeah.
You either believe it or you don't, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, well, I've always believed that. So I've been taught. So then if the divine is ageless, that makes me ageless too. And this is supported in science.
Because
right?
we're just energy.
Yes,
right?
but we're bodies too.
Right.
And so
we're energy, and how does energy age? It doesn't, right? So
yes. I know that's part of like culture right now is talking about, and I had this conversation with my girlfriend a couple of weeks ago. She's like, "Oh, I get what you're saying. We're energy." I'm like, "Yeah, but."
She said the same thing.
But because that's very, that's very pop right now, right? To say that we're energy. Yes, we are energy, but we're also bodies. We're also
bodies.
But
the body is aging, but
But it doesn't have to.
You know how my grandpa just turned 100, right?
That's awesome. I love that
Remember?
post.
Okay. And
Yeah.
I look at my grandpa's personality and his spirit, and it's still the same. It's just that his body is older, but who he is still young. Like my grandpa, you know, he loves to play. Like recently, we're playing hot potato because you know, with Sophia, she wanted to play hot potato with like not a real potato, but like something heavy.
Yeah.
And my grandpa is still agile, and he can still catch it. He still loves it when it falls on the floor. It almost hits him, or you know. So I'm like, oh my god, my he still wants to play.
Yeah, I seen him on the dance floor. He still got the dance moves, right?
Still dance. My grandpa still drives. He's 100. He still goes to see his girlfriend. You know, he still has a driver's license. They haven't taken that from him. You know, he hasn't stopped doing anything, and he's 100. So,
awesome.
You know, yeah, he is ageless, but it's because his spirit keeps him young.
Yeah, but here's the thing: it can be the body too. It's not just the spirit. It's not just the energy. It can be the body too. The reason the body hasn't responded yet is because nobody's teaching it.
Well, he works out every day. So I think, yeah, there's truth to that. He works out every single day, and he eats healthy. He's like Jack LaLanne, basically. You know, and if you ask him, what's your secret? He'll say exercise.
Awesome. Yeah, see, for me, there's no reason why your grandfather can't live to be 200, 400, 800. And I'm being truthful. This is what I believe. This is what's in my heart. I truly believe there's no reason he can't be 200, 400, 800, a millennium. There's no reason. Because when we look at science, for example, we know time goes forward and time goes backwards, right? Just think of the number line. There's positive numbers and there's negative numbers, right? It's not just positive numbers. There's negative numbers too, which means that if your birthday is going this way, the government says go this way. Well, Beto and Michelle and your grandfather say, you know what, I'm going to go this way a little while, right? We can reverse those birthdays.
Yes.
It's scientific. It's also theological, because for the divine, for God, for Allah, you know, the universe, there is no age. Not only that, but ancient text tells us for every, to God, to Allah, to the divine, to the universe, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, but keep going.
Yeah. So the reason why it hasn't manifested yet, immortality, is because nobody's teaching it. Nobody's saying, you know, like I said,
that if they taught immortality, that people would be living longer than 100.
Absolutely, because people have lived longer than 100. People have not died. If you look at ancient texts, there's cases of folk, Elijah in the Old Testament and the Hebrew Scriptures, who lived, and then all of a sudden he ascended to heaven alive. Like, he didn't encounter physical death. Jesus, the great, who I call the great teacher, was killed. But before he was killed, he said, he prophesied, I'll be back in 3 days. Guys, you want to take me out? I'll be back, right? He came back. That was an act of immortality. And then he had 2 acts of immortality. Then he rose, right, to heaven alive in his physical body. It wasn't just his energy. And this is why I said yes, but Jesus didn't say, oh, wow, people like, oh, look at that energy. Look at Casper the Friendly Ghost. You know what I mean? No, it's his physical body that went up. You know, that's why I understand why people say that about energy, because it's part of pop culture, but it's also the body too.
Yes. Okay. But in the Bible, I mean, there's the Holy Spirit, right? You know, you've got like the body and the blood of Christ, and then you've got a Holy Spirit. And whenever people die, they always say that they felt their spirit rise. Nobody has ever seen a body rise, right? But of course, Jesus did. His body rose.
Well, but before Jesus, there was others. There's Elijah and others. If you look at
I didn't. Okay.
Yeah. There's 8 other accounts in the Hebrew Scriptures in the Old Testament. Plus, if you look at India and Jainism, there are many spiritual leaders that rose up physically in their physical body.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Well, That's because you know so much more, Beto, because you've got 2 masters.
Well, it's
in
just
that.
something that people don't teach, right? Otherwise, you
Yeah.
would,
But
you know.
did you learn that? Is that topics that are covered in divinity?
No, it's just
So
street
that's
smart.
not even related to divinity.
Well, it is related to divinity, but it's really just street smarts that, I just started piecing things together about what makes sense and what doesn't make sense, and looking at science, right? For
We're
example.
not talking about that on my streets.
So, for example,
What
another
smart are you? Who are you talking to?
so another piece of science, and this is actually came from a song about stardust. But science tells us that our bodies are made of stardust. Our
Yes.
bodies are made of
Yes, I hear that.
it's made of
It's
particles.
made out of the same matter that stars are made out of, right?
Exactly.
That's why it tells Sophia a flower or a tree, right? And everything is programmed to grow to its maximum, you know, to the maximum, right? Like a tree just grows until it can't grow anymore, right?
Yeah.
It's similar. If we're made out of stardust, what does that mean to you?
Yeah. So what it means is that within each of our bodies, right, not just our energies, but our bodies are particles of stars that were around millions, billions, trillions of years ago, even stars that were there supposedly at the beginning, right, of the universe.
Yeah.
And this is why I like using the word the divine versus the universe, because in my mind, I like to separate it between, the universe, like stars and stuff like that, versus, what made all of this, right? But anyhow, with the universe, so what happens? So because our bodies are made of stars, and this is science, people know this stuff, because our bodies are made of stars, scientists know this, because our bodies are made of stardust, it has the ability to regenerate itself. And this is why I'm saying that it's just, reversing aging is not just about being energy or being, a mindset. It's about the physical body too, because our bodies have the ability to regenerate itself. That's science. The reason immortality is not manifesting, because it's not being taught.
I see. That's incredible. Okay, I just had another aha moment.
So, like, for example, I know you and me too, we like our products, right?
Mm-hmm.
I use the retinol, and I put the moisturizer on, and I got that little thing for my eyes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
I anticipate you do the same. And you know how they always tell us, well, those fine lines, or they tell me anyhow, those fine lines that you have, they're not going to go away. And I remember this was like before I started my shows and professing my immortality, but I was studying about it, right? It's during that 10-year period where I was studying about it. It's right in the middle. And I remember thinking, I don't agree. I don't agree that the fine lines can't go away. That makes it just didn't agree with my soul, my spirit. And now I know why, spiritually, philosophically, and theologically, because it can be reversed. Even fine lines can be reversed. So when I'm in the mirror and I'm doing my, put my products on, I'm like, yeah, that's an untruth. I look at that fine line and I say, that's an untruth. It's going to go away. See, it's,
right.
I'm working my mind right daily. I'm working my mind daily. Now, does it work? I don't know. You tell me.
Yeah. Does it work? Does it work? When you look at the fine lines and you tell them you're going to go away. Does it work? I think it does. Yeah, now that you mentioned it, Beto, it does work. And I love what you're saying about, because the body can regenerate, right? Like the liver, it's capable of regenerating itself. Mm-hmm. So amazing. Like if that is like what meditation is about, right? People that heal themselves, I think that is totally possible. And why? And are they using this to cure cancer? Because if you've got cancer and you have the ability to speak to your body and tell yourself that you can heal yourself. And I think that if we were being taught that we could, then we could. Mm-hmm. Like when you speak to a plant, have you ever heard about that? Like, the experiment of speaking to plants, those are the plants that grow and thrive. And mm-hmm. if you ignore your plant and, never talk to it, it just wilts. Yep. So it's like the same concept.
It's exactly the same concept, because if we were to talk like we do to our plants, we would be able to be 200, 400, 800 years ago, 800 years, even a millennium. because when we talk to ourselves, we say what? You're over the hill.
Oh
You're
God.
aging. We all get old and die, right?
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's horrible the way we
Yeah, it's
talk.
horrible.
We don't talk life.
We compare ourselves to what we see on TV, and we compare ourselves to, right, the younger people that we think, oh, you know, my time has passed. I'm not cute and young and thin anymore. And, you know, and that's why so many women, mostly women, turn to procedures, right? Instead of maybe practicing reverse birthdays and
I have nothing
regenerating themselves.
Yeah, I have nothing against procedures or I said I use products and stuff like that. I mean, I'm going to use, whatever I can afford that's out there available.
Hey, I sent you some Monet. Did you like your Monet product?
I did. Yeah, anything that's safe, right? Anything that's safe. But yeah, I mean, ancient text tells us our tongues have the power of life and death. Life and death. And what are we doing with our tongues? I mean, on social media, rarely does a week go by I don't see somebody post, life is short.
Yes, I know that you don't like that.
That's like my biggest pet peeve. No, it's long. It's long. It can be 800 years, 1,000 years, 400, whatever. It can be whatever you make.
But do you think that mortality is around 100 years because we tell ourselves that you can't live beyond 100?
Well, right now, the average mortality rate globally is 80 years.
Yeah, but we always think like 100 is max.
Yeah, so what do? We plan for it. We actually plan to die at 80 years old, right? We, put money away, and then you retire at a certain age, and then you die.
Yes.
For those who are lucky enough, they move to Miami or Portugal or whatever, and then they die. Like, yeah, you're literally you're planning your death. I don't plan my death. No, no. People like, what's your retirement? I'm like, dude, I don't even use that word retire.
Right. Me neither. And I don't like that. I don't like it. Kind of worries me, but I'm beyond that. At first, it was worrying me to see people my age who are retiring young. First of all, they're young because we're not even in our 60s and they're retiring. And then it makes some people think like, oh my gosh, first of all, am I that old? Right. And did I miss the boat? Because I'm not thinking about retiring anytime soon. So I love this because, I mean, I don't feel like, I feel like that 65, that you must retire when you're 65 is also another lie.
Exactly.
That you must die by 100 and retire at 65 are just what we made up, what the government made up, right?
Yes, go talk to Bob Arum or Warren Buffett. These guys are like almost 90 and they're thriving right now.
Yeah.
They got empires, right? And they're like, why would I retire? You bring me something more fun than what I'm doing now, is what they would say.
Yeah.
Bring me something more fun than I'm doing now. Why would I retire? I'm having a blast. Like, I went to his birthday party a while back. And he was still in his, he's like in his early 80s. I think it was his 80th birthday party, actually. But he's like approaching 90 now. Warren Buffett, too. Yeah, it's just, it makes no sense to me. It just makes no sense. From a theological perspective, from a philosophical perspective, it just makes no sense.
Wow. I love that. Now what you're saying makes sense to me. So what could and if we were to teach kids, if we started to learn this, would it make a difference in our mortality rates? And are there other countries that are teaching it? Have you, in your research, have you found anywhere where they are teaching about immortality?
That's a great question. So when I actually started posting on social media, I actually started with just like post the written paragraphs before I started doing my shows. And it started with like a lot of people following, and they still are following me from India. Because this isn't foreign to Indian culture, what I'm talking about. I mean, it's not like common. It's not like part of their pop culture, but it's not foreign to them. So that's like where a lot of my early followers came from. And now Now it's like mostly California, and I think Indian culture and California culture both have a lot of similarities. So they're always looking, for different things. There's always a spiritual perspective, and like, getting rid of like the well, just like the spiritual perspective. But yeah, going back to the piece you said about the government, if you really think about it, the aging and death too, it's really about dominion because people want control, right?
Okay.
Because the fourth world is all about divide and conquer.
Uh-huh.
Fifth world that's coming is going to be completely different, but the fourth world is all about divide and conquer. And it's about control. It's about having dominion over people. So if you and me live to be 400, 800 years old, all of a sudden they lose control of their structures, right? It's complete structural change. It's complete spiritual revolution because now retirement's not based on 65 anymore, right? How are you going to pay Social Security to somebody who's 800 years old? So, all their structural systems that keeps them in place, and it's all about scarcity.
Oh my God, I just thought about that. Paying somebody Social Security for 800 years. Wow. Okay, yeah. So the government's like, no, you got to go. You have to 100. Or sooner. Wow.
But yeah, it's all it's all.
That's a movie to be made, Beto. You got to make a movie about that.
But yes, I call those people the lords of scarcity because it's all scarcity. They actually have a science for it. It's called economics. Economics is the science of studying scarcity.
Yeah.
Where does the great teacher talk about scarcity and the importance of scarcity? He doesn't. He doesn't talk about scarcity.
And it's interesting because in the Bible, Moses lived for like hundreds of years, right? Like these people lived a long time in the Bible.
Yeah, and the great teacher, Jesus, always talked about abundance.
Yeah.
Abundance, right? Not just
abundance,
material. Spiritual abundance, peace, right? The peace which passeth all understanding, love, generosity, caring for the least of these, and so, people talk about, so here's the thing with the fourth world for me, is the fourth world has interpreted the great teacher coming to earth. This is what blows my mind. They say, okay, Jesus or the great teacher came to earth, right? And then he died, then he rose from the dead, and then rose physically in his physical body to heaven so that we could live eternal life, our soul. Time out. That's not the example. The example is physically.
So that we go to with our physical body.
Exactly.
Right. So, and I've heard this, like biblically, there are people who believe that like when Jesus comes back, is it like we're waiting for the day when all of us will be taken up to heaven in our physical body? Because I've heard that. And it's not going to be our current body. It's going to be like the best body, like in when you're in the best health. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, no, it does, because I just talked to my dad about this. He's like, I think I don't know if I shared with you, but during COVID, back in the dark days of COVID, back in January, he he's going to get an angiogram for his heart. And he was in pre-op, and he actually he flatlined. He had a cardiac arrest for 2 minutes. Thankfully, he was around experts, and he came back, right? He came back later. And so we're talking like a week or two later, and I said, did you see anything? Because he's big on this heaven thing. Mm-hmm. He's actually written a book that's getting published. He's got a book deal right now, and part of it's heaven, part of it's miracles. It's more miracles than heaven. But anyhow, he had said that in a previous time that he had seen a vision of heaven, and I'm like, did you see heaven this time? He's like, no, I didn't see it. I'm like, and then he started talking about the last time he saw heaven. He's like, why was it that when I saw heaven last time, it's like, I don't know, 20 years ago, that the people had physical bodies? I'm like, exactly. Like, heaven's not like Casper the Flying, we don't have like white sheets over ourselves, right? Because nobody recognized anybody. It makes no sense, right? If it was all energy, Casper, and like who's who, it makes no sense. He's like, he physically saw a physical body.
So we
Like
know we
he
have eyes and we can see each other.
he
Yeah.
said, yeah, the best of the bodies, right? So and so at 35 or so and so at 29. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah.
that's what he saw was physical body. So for me, the example, the great teacher was that came to earth. People were like, oh, we're gonna, the lords of scarcity, right? We're all about scarcity. They're afraid of his message. Said, we got to kill this guy. So they kill him, and he said, yeah, go ahead. I'm just gonna come back. I'm immortal. I'm gonna come back. And sure enough, 3 days later, he comes back. And then, but here's the thing: he didn't die again. One time he came back, but he didn't die again. No, he rose to heaven in his physical body. So then why do we have to die physically? It makes no sense, right? If his example is that you can rise to heaven alive in your physical body, then that's what we should be talking about, not, oh, he died, rose up, and rose again so that we could die and then our spirits could rise up. It makes no sense, because if we're truly created in the image of the divine, not only are we ageless, but we're immortal. Like the divine doesn't die. Like we don't say, oh, pobrecito the divine, and it's almost 80 years or 100 years, be dying soon, right? No.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the divine like that, right?
Okay, so Beto, so if you, and I've not ever heard you talk about this. So if with that belief system, so what do you think about like when a person, what do you call it, when they come back again? Like Buddhism, like do we come back again? And does our spirit reincarnation?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been trying to avoid that one, to be honest.
Because we already have a body, then we're not going to come back.
No, so okay. So honestly, here's this is me. All right. This is not like, this is just my thinking. Is that there's 3 kinds of deaths, right? The people who physically pass away. And then those people, that either end up in the afterworld, or, if there's something like where they need more work, like spiritually, then I think then some of those people are reincarnated and are, given another chance to try and make things
purgatory.
Not so much purgatory. I just think that they get another opportunity. It could be purgatory. It could be reincarnation. Yeah, I think, because I'm not a big hell guy, right?
Yeah.
I just think there's an opportunity for people to have a second chance to make things right, or a third chance, or a 9th chance, or whatever. And then I think like there's people who they just accept death, right? They're like, all right, die at 80, whatever, or 100, and they die, and then they're good, whatever, they go up and whatnot. There's energy, or their spirits go up. But I also think there's this other, there's these other people, these other folk who say, no, like, I don't need to keep coming. Like, I don't need to experience physical death. Like, I can just rise up, right? Like this higher, spirituality where I can say, no, I just rise up in my physical body, like the great teacher did, and others, others did before, Elijah and whatnot. So that's not necessary. It's just not necessary. Aging and death, physical death, are just not necessary, because I'm created in the image of the divine, and I got the example with the great teacher and whatnot. So
I love it. I love what you're saying. And that was a great, I learned a lot today, because I know I've been hearing you say this, and I had no idea, but it just makes so much sense.
Yeah. And if you, for those who are watching, if you want to celebrate, you're determined to celebrate your next birthday, your first birthday, visit my website, datedivinitycoach.com, fill out an order form, and I'd love to send you a first reverse birthday card. I've sent quite a few out, and people love them. And
awesome.
Yeah. And if you need,
and the bracelet, and I'm wearing my bracelets right now, and this is the one. Oops, can you see it? Manifest immortality. So Beto sends these out. He mailed these to me, and that's one of them.
Yeah. So we got a video opening the box and looking at.
Yes, and then I took a video of myself opening the box, because you took the time to mail me a box. So I was like, okay, I could take the time to make a video of me opening the box and then post it on my social media. So I did.
That was awesome.
And that's also why I mailed you some Monet hair products. Because you took the time to send me bands. So
for that, I appreciate that.
Good. Like, that's good energy to take the time, what you do, to take the time to go to the post office and mail people and make these. I mean, we don't pay for them. You got a sponsor or you're using your own money to make these bands to send them to people. Okay, so you're paying, yourself. That's goodwill. So I wanted to pay it back by at least sharing about your bands and acknowledging
I appreciate that. Yeah, I'm my own sponsor. The bands are free. The reverse birthday cards are free. I was told early on when I was studying with Cornell West, he advised me, he said, be careful who you take money from. I said, why? He said, because they can come back later and try and censor you. So I have no censorship. That's why I go about immortality the way I do. I'm not worried about, do they think I'm crazy, or is that against, the religion that's, ordained me or whatever. No, I don't worry about that, because I'm my own sponsor, and these are my words. I actually own my words.
Oh my God, that's great. I love it. Well, thank you, Beto. Yeah. Thank you for telling us all about the reverse birthdays. So visit his website on your birthday or right before your birthday, and he'll send you your reverse birthday card. Yeah. So that was one of our, this was our very first Wednesday segment, and we're going to be taping more and sharing with you. It says every Wednesday. And we've got so much to talk about, so I look forward to it. I'm sure we're going to have lots of topics. So, okay, goodbye, everybody, and enjoy your Wednesday.
Yes, happy Wednesday.
Okay, bye, Beto. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye. Adios. Ciao.
Bye.